I thank the chairman. As we know, there has been a lot of outcry about the AIG bonuses, and rightfully so, not only from the members of the public, but from many members of our own chamber who were unaware that the Dodd Amendment had been slipped into the bill that approved and protected AIG's bonuses. So this resolution from our colleague from Ohio, Mr. LaTourette, was put forward for three reasons. One was to ensure that this never happens again. Two, to continue to try to uncover who did this amendment and why. And third, to answer that question, why, to determine whether it is part of a larger policy of this administration to continue to allow such bonuses so that they can retain the people who helped cause the problem in order that they might fix the problem. I think that it is important to answer this policy question because in many ways what we're seeing out of recent proposals from the administration is a continuation of the too big to fail theory and an argument that somehow institutionalizing the TARP program within a new regulatory regime will somehow prove beneficial to taxpayers and the American public in the long run. I fundamentally disagree with that, and I would like to know whether I should be disabused of that notion or not. But again, for the interest of the institution, both in terms of public confidence that the legislation that we pass has been thoroughly vetted and thoroughly thought out by their subservient members of Congress, and also for the knowledge of the subservient members of Congress that they understand that this could happen again. If the hidden hand which slipped this amendment into this bill in the dead of night is allowed to continue operating with pen in hand, there could easily be another recrudescence of such instances where members vote upon things only to find out later that there were additions to it that caused them discombobulation amongst their constituencies. We cannot have that. I appreciate the chairman's willingness to work with us, and I encourage members to support the LaTourette resolution. I yield back the balance of my time.
I recognize myself for 5 minutes to say that I know it won't assuage the gentleman's fears because there are some fears which the holder does not wish to have assuaged. But in fact, not only are we doing things to stop this from happening again, we are undoing it. The bill that the committee just considered, which I believe will be voted on tomorrow, undoes that particular insertion. The bill specifically repeals that exemption against retroactivity that was inserted into the appropriation. We, in this committee, weren't part of those deliberations. And let me be clear, since we are talking about something retroactive, unless it is allowed to have retroactive effect, it doesn't make any difference whether it was done now or then. So we are, in fact, rendering that amendment that has been the cause of such concern a nullity. We are canceling it in this bill. And now members may choose to vote against the bill which cancels it because they don't like other provisions of it. But the bill that we have today undoes that ban on the retroactivity. So it will have been in effect for a very short period of time. It will have had, I'll yell to the gentleman from Michigan.
Mr. Chairman, I just wish to be clear. I am most grateful for your assistance in this matter because we understand that this was clearly nothing that came out of this committee, and as I have said publicly, I clearly believe that had the amendment come to light, that the members of the majority would not have supported it. I also understand that the attempt tomorrow to put the bill in front of us to undo this is also very well intentioned. I'm speaking of the larger picture as well, however, Mr. Chairman, because while this was an instance regarding this specific policy matter in terms of the AIG bonus.
Oh, I appreciate it. Let me take back my time. Just first of all, to acknowledge the gentleman was gracious. We were on the air and he said that, and I appreciate that. And there is a larger procedural question. But I do say that, I guess part of what I would say in the procedural question is this, and I've seen this happen before. People who are trying to slip something in that no one will notice should be on notice that people might notice later and then undo it. That isn't always effective. Sometimes if something is done, it cannot be undone. In this case, given that we are doing something retroactive, it can be. So I don't mean to denigrate, to detract from the gentleman's larger point. I now recognize the gentleman from Ohio.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I would like to enter